Hey everyone, I'm Jack Fossett, and this is the Shnobel Tone Daily Driver. This is a pedal that has been designed and being put out by Roman from Shnobel Tone, the demo channel that many of you, I'm sure, know and love very much. He was doing great videos before my videos were even a twinkle, and that's right, it's a bad metaphor. Let's move on. This is an exceptionally good overdrive pedal, and it's really in many ways it seems like an overdrive that's kind of more than an overdrive, and it behaves in some different ways than your typical overdrive pedals, and particularly the EQ, and I think it's very usable, and it's a really great, I almost want to call it a tone sweetener. It's not really a tone sculptor. It's more like a tone sweetener. And so I'll describe what I'm talking about a little bit. So you've got your obvious, you've got volume, gain, high, low, and then this is a high cut switch. Now, I do want to mention real quick, I have the high cut switch for the most part of the demo on the high position, on the up position, which is cutting a bit more of the top end. The reason that I'm doing that for the bulk of the demo is because I'm going into the VHT D-Fifty amp, which is a brighter amp. So already right there, you're talking about got a lot of options to account for what kind of rig you're playing into, and you'll hear it sounds really nice. Now, you probably noticed that when I switched it down, it got a lot brighter. So already there, you can see how much of a dramatic difference it can be, but kind of retaining the same character. And then there was also, of course, the low setting and the down settings. You understand. The gain has a nice range. It added a good amount of kind of like edge of breakup grit at lower levels, really got to a nice saturated point, and I know that this term is overused in pedal demos, but it really is particularly amp-like, this one. One of the ways that I can tell that is when the gain is all the way up. It still sounded very natural with the gain all the way up. Now, there's a lot of pedals that are out there that are really great, that I love, that are high quality pedals, that are good pedals, but when you turn the gain all the way up and use more of the drive from the pedal, they sound they could sound a little grainy, they could sound a little fizzy, they sound a little fake. Generally speaking, most overdrive pedals, like, even if you're getting a lot of you're not just using it as a clean boost, you're getting some of the drive of the pedal and the character, it still works best if you're pushing the amplifier. This one I thought sounded really good, even going into a clean signal with the gain turned all the way up and just getting gain from itself. So that right there tells me it's a good quality pedal, and the character of the pedal is very natural and, again, very amp-like. Now, what's interesting is it seems like a lot of the power on this pedal is very much tethered to the gain knob, right? So you'll notice that when I kind of had the knobs pointing at each other, it wasn't really boosting the volume much. It was sweetening the tone again a little bit. So this was still a very usable setting, but if you wanted to push and use it more as a boost, you'd still want to be getting that gain dialed in a bit more. Now, the cool thing about that is that there's a good range on the gain knob, so it's not like, you get up to this point and it's already like super, super snarl city. Good range on it. Now, what's really cool about this pedal, and what's interesting in and of itself, are the high and the lows. Now, the high makes a more dramatic and noticeable difference than the low, right? So when you turn the high up, it gets really bright. When you turn the high all the way back, it gets much darker sounding. The lows, you notice when I put them to the extreme, it was a less dramatic sort of difference. So here's where I like this. Now, remember, I know it sounded quite a bit darker when I turned the high back. First of all, most players are never going to turn the high all the way back on a lot of pedals. Second of all, remember, I did have that high cut switch on. So when you're adjusting it with the high cut switch, then you're going to be able to dial in a lot of different ranges of treble with this. And you also have probably heard, particularly with the high all the way up, like on the neck pickup of the Telecaster, I thought it sounded really, really nice. Now, in the next part, I'm actually going to be playing into a Les Paul into the amp overdriven, which I'll talk about more in a second. And having the high up really adds a nice grind to it. It makes it sound almost more like a distortion kind of sound than just an overdrive. What I was most impressed with on this pedal was actually the lows knob, which I know sounds kind of odd. The reason is because of the frequencies that it's doing. If you roll it off, it seems like a high quality studio high pass filter is what it sounds like. And when you push it, it seems to be boosting just the right amount of low frequencies that don't at all make it boomy or muddy. It just fills in that bottom end, right? Okay, so this is how I look at it. Trio, 4 or more in your band. And when you pulled the bass all the way back, it didn't sound thin at all. Again, what it did is it seemed to just pull out those frequencies that compete with other instruments, and it sounded more like a guitar signal that you would hear on a recording, which is really, really cool. This knob on its own is major, major selling feature for me. And again, the high knob and then with the high cut switch, you've got a massive range of tools you can use. And again, I don't know that I'd call it a tone sculptor so much as a tone sweetener. It seems very, very natural sounding, and it seems like there are ways that you can just kind of enhance what you're playing and what you're using. And it has a bit of its own character, but it is also kind of in that transparent realm. Now, I love the styling. It's got this kind of matte black enclosure with the top, and I really like the just straight black and white, and with the little hash marks on it, and just the style. It kind of evokes like an old studio preamp or compressor or something, which also just fits into its style of, again, it's like it sweetens your tone. It's just something that you plug your guitar into, and it just makes everything sound better, which is kind of the vibe that I got from it. So I think the styling really fits. It looks very classy, and I actually like the fact that it's in a slightly bigger enclosure. Mini pedals certainly have their place, and they've gotten super popular lately, even maybe even to the point where they're becoming like the new, I don't know that you'd call them like trendier, but it seems like I'm seeing more mini pedals than not mini pedals nowadays. And I get it from a pedal board real estate standpoint, but I have to be totally honest. So I don't have or use a big, massive, fancy pedal board, with stuff sideways and things like, in the crazy, like an IT network of professionally laid out power plugs and things in the back. I tend to actually use a relatively simple rig when I perform or record. And part of the reason is because, for me, I want to focus on playing. Now, I'm not making any insinuations about people who use pedals. I don't want to go down that road. People who use big pedal boards that look like, spaceship control centers, if you can do it and do something creative with that, then all the power to you. This is my personal preference. One of the things that I like about big pedals is this is silly, but there's a psychological aspect to it. You see this sitting on the floor, and you kick it on, and it's power, right? It's a big pedal, and it's big tone, and it's big power. It's what it does for me. I don't know. I like it. It feels like a professional piece of musical equipment, not just guitar gear. It feels like a piece of musical equipment, and I like it. It's very, very high quality. It seems like really did a ton of research and a ton of tweaking to dial it in just right and use super high quality components. And I think that shows in the performance of it. Now, I do want to mention this is a sponsored demo. He sent me this pedal to do the review of it. And I do know Roman. We talk about being dads and stuff. And I've met him at a NAMM show. And he's a nice guy. And I would love to support his business. That being said, everything that I've just said was completely honest, and he didn't ask for, he didn't say, hey, give me a favorable review or anything. He said, I want a demo of this. My opinion is genuine and not paid for. So what I mentioned is, for the first part, I'm plugging into the VHT D-Fifty amplifier. The first part, you heard it with the Telecaster. Just going into the clean amp to really give you kind of a range of what this sounds like with single coils. Obviously, with overdrive pedals, one of the popular things to do is to play it into an already overdriven amplifier. So for the next part, I'm going to run that amplifier already overdriven on its own with a Les Paul and use this to get some more rock snarl. And it really works well with an already overdriven amplifier as well. It really likes the humbuckers. It doesn't seem to have any kind of snag between, oh, it really works better for humbuckers or single coils. It works great for both. So let us know in the comments, have you had the opportunity to play the Daily Driver? And they were getting out there, and then COVID hit, and I think that kind of slowed things down, but they're still around, they're still out there, and I think they're getting out more now, which is good, because this is definitely very, very high on the list of pedals that I've played. I'm very impressed with this. So let us know if you've tried out the Daily Driver, if this is one that's on the list of things that you want to get. Stick around for some tones for the Les Paul. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video.